This was clearly an attack on our gay community. It was an attack on our Hispanic community. It was an attack on Orlando. It was a terror attack on our nation. It's clearly a terror attack on our way of life. But this state is resilient. This city is resilient. This country is resilient. We all know this is terror. We've got to destroy ISIS. And as a nation, we'll do that.
And that was Florida Governor Rick Scott during an investigation update earlier today in Orlando following the attack that killed 49 people. FBI officials confirmed they interviewed the shooter's wife, but could not comment further past that. All this as our nation recovers from the deadliest attack on U.S. soil since 9/11. And for much more on this story, we are pleased to be joined via Skype by U.S. Senator James Inhofe. Senator Inhofe is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Environment and Public Works and also a member of the Senate Committee on Armed Services. Senator, thank you so much for joining us here on Newsmax Prime. It's a pleasure to have you.
Nice to be with you, Amanda.
Senator, Governor Rick Scott was quick, as you heard, to call this terrorism and pointed to ISIS. What's your take on this whole awful ordeal?
I was very proud of him. He should have thrown in there radical Islam. It's mind-boggling that we have an administration at a time when we're in the most threatened position we've been in the history of this country, who won't recognize and talk about who the enemy is. It goes back to when he was first elected. If you remember, never since Israel got its independence in 1948 have we had a president that didn't that went over and trashed Israel. It's just something that you can't figure it out, and yet he seems to embrace Islam wherever he goes. And even now, after this tragedy that took place in Orlando, he won't recognize that it is. And that's one reason I was kind of proud of several statements that Trump made. He's always criticized, but at least he said, come on, call it what it is. This is radical Islam. This is a war. So I thought the governor did a good job.
Senator, your Democratic colleagues took to the floor earlier today to turn the issue political towards gun control, filibustering on the floor. Take a listen.
And the senator, no doubt, is not only understands, but unfortunately grieves along with the rest of us about what happened in Orlando, that these are not weapons for hunting. These are weapons for killing.
And that was Senator Bill Nelson from Florida. What is your reaction to your colleagues filibustering the floor to push such a political issue?
But see, Amanda, this is not new. This has been going on for 7.5 years now. Every time there's any kind of trauma, any kind of problem out there, and it all comes from the administration. It comes from Obama. He has 3 legacies left in a short period of time to try to get rid of them. And that one of them clearly is for gun control, to infringe upon your Second Amendment rights. So they use everything they can as if that is going to control things. Right now they're considering legislation that is going to talk about, under what conditions can a person be rejected in getting a weapon. Well, what they don't realize is it doesn't matter what laws we pass. Someone who is a criminal element, somebody who is a terrorist out there trying to kill people, that person isn't going to be a law-abiding person. That person is going to have access to weapons. And just envision in America where just the good, honest people are disarmed, are unarmed, and we have there's nothing new about that. They've been doing it since he took office.
What about people who are on the terrorist watch list?
Well, see, they have 8 different lists that they could talk about, and people who are on the terrorist watch list doesn't mean that they are terrorists. It doesn't mean that it could amount to a lot of different things. But we have 8 different groups that they're talking about right now. And frankly, Amanda, that's what I was referring to, saying all the time that's being spent by saying, oh, we want to make sure that no terrorists buy guns. And so I think that they can go ahead and pass something like that. And probably they will pass something. I think that John Cornyn from Texas has a good idea. He said, if you want to identify those people, then you go ahead and say, all right, before you can buy a gun, then you have to go back to your attorney general in whatever state you came from and let them handle this individually and handle it from a state level. Now, I think that's a great idea. He had that idea and tried to get it passed last December, and the liberals just don't want to do it. They just want to stand by the president and just do away with Second Amendment rights.
I want to go back to Donald Trump. He spoke in Atlanta, Georgia earlier today, and he took on the issue of the Orlando shooting again. Here's what he had to say.
And I've been saying it's going to happen. And I hate to say it again, but it's going to happen again and again and again because we're not doing what we have to be doing. It's going to happen again and again and again. And we are not doing what we're supposed to be doing. We are taking in thousands of people into our country. We have no idea where they come from. We have no idea who the hell they are.
Now, with Trump talking about the vetting system here in the United States, a lot of Republicans have continued to push away from Donald Trump on his handling of the Orlando shooting. Does that concern you so close to the convention and the November election?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump is going to come out and say what he feels, and that's supposed to be something we don't do. He's not politically correct. We all knew that. And in fact, I watch some of the things he says, and I think, how can he survive that? And yet he does. So I think if people would look at some of the things he says, I'm going to read one statement because I just saw it a few minutes ago. It said that it said that I refuse to allow America to become a place where gay people, Christian people, Jewish people are targets of persecution and intimidation by radical Islamic preachers of hate and violence. That's what this is all about. You know, we are that type of a threatened position. You know what the biggest problem is, Amanda? Right out of the chute, the first thing this president did when he became president, he drew the line and the red line in Syria and made this bold statement, you're not going to cross this line. They crossed the line immediately, did nothing. So we have lost the respect of our allies, and our enemies don't fear us anymore. That's the big problem that we're living with today, and that all started 7 years ago. So I think it calls for the kind of language and the kind of criticism that we're getting right now from Trump, and a lot of people feel it's overdue.
So when we talk about respect, and you're saying that President Obama has lost the respect of our allies, do you think Trump, as president, will be able to regain that respect again?
I think he will, because something happened last week that no one is reported on, no one was aware of, but I'm aware of it because a person named John Bonzo, who worked for a long period of time, is an expert in defense. Trump brought 10 people to Trump Tower. It's just last week. A specialist in each area, defense, healthcare, and all that. They went up there and spent the entire day, and he listened carefully, asked the right questions very calmly, and he's trying to put himself in a position where he has firsthand knowledge of all of these issues, number one, and number two, surrounding himself with people who are knowledgeable. Now, the guy is smart, you have to admit that, and he's when he's in the business world, he has surrounded himself with experts. I anticipate that if he is president of the United States, that he will do that. And each day that goes by, people are going to find more out about the type of people he'll surround himself with. Yeah,
Senator, we only have a few minutes remaining, so I do want to get your take real quickly on Guantanamo Bay. With this attack in Orlando, a lot of concern continues to grow over closing that facility and releasing terrorists or moving them to prisons on U.S. soil. Reports say that the president will not use executive action to shut down Guantanamo. Now, if the president won't use executive order, does that give you and your colleagues hope that the facility will remain operational?
Well, it's going to remain operational. We're passing the defense authorization bill right now as we speak. In that bill, we don't allow any money to go toward transferring those terrorists into the United States, which is what Obama wants to do. You got to keep in mind, a minute ago when we started this interview, I said there are three areas that this person that he is bound and determined to do. It's his legacy. One is take away your guns, but the other one, the second one, is closing Gitmo. Look, it's one of the few good deals that we have. We only paid $4,000 for that way back in 1903, and there's no place else in the world where you can put enemy combatants. These are not criminals; they are terrorists. You can't intermingle them with our prison population. Their job is to teach people to be terrorists. And there's no place else that we have identified where you can put these people. Do you know the recidivism rate of those who have been released from Gitmo is 30%?
Right.
In fact, we just testified just yesterday that even the administration admitted
Right.
that
It's something we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on. Senator, we are out of time, but thank you so much for joining us here on Newsmax Prime. We'll be back with much more. You're watching Newsmax Prime.